I'm going to name drop. I remember doing an event with Elon Musk, and we were walking through SpaceX, and I had a guy next to me, and I was between him and Elon. He was trying to engage Elon Musk into a conversation, and Elon's not really a chatty kind of guy. And Elon turned around, not even glancing his way, but just kind of like a slight misstep. And he turned around and he said, "They'll always laugh at you just before they applaud."
Welcome to the Better Human Podcast. My name is Greg Witz, and each week we're going to be bringing you some incredible and inspiring guests and topics that are going to take your life to the next level. Thanks for spending time with us. Sit back and enjoy the show. You know, your business is world-renowned, and you do some incredible work and events, right? And you've had a great opportunity to do some really high-profile stuff. I mean, you've been featured in Forbes, CNBC, London Sunday Times. You've worked with royalty, presidents, A-list celebrities. So let's start there. You know, how did this all begin for you? I mean, did you grow up thinking, one day I'm going to start this business, or how did it start?
So I never wanted the business, which is a very strange way to start the conversation. For anyone that knows the business, and things have changed, but for 25 plus years, I was a concierge and was known as the Mr. Fix-It to the most powerful people in the planet, of which only about 20% of my client bank were famous. But my other clients were like far richer, but you had no idea who they were. Right. I never went out of my way to launch a concierge. I went out of my way to become, at the time, immaturely, and we'll come back to that word in a second, rich. Because you see, I was a bricklayer from East London. So I had no money. I had no peers. We also never had the internet to tell us how inadequate our life was at the time. So I had no guidance. But I knew that I was very aggravated. And I believe all entrepreneurs start from a point of aggravation. I never had money. I never had anyone challenge me. I never knew what I was capable of. So I went out in the planet to try and find it. And if I wanted to surround myself with people with money, I tried getting a job around those people and in those industries. So I tried getting jobs as used, high-end car salesman for exotic cars, yacht charters, jet charters. And of course, 240-pound of ugly biker, I didn't exactly fit in those molds, and I was kicked out pretty much consistently after only a few days every time.
You didn't bode well in the
I didn't look well. You know, I came at you and you just kind of like, shit yourself a bit, because at the time, again, not only was I big, I was also aggravated. So this wasn't a good cocktail. But I'm like, and I wouldn't say that I had I'm trying to think of the right word. I was just purely aggravated that other people had what I thought I could do, and therefore, how did they get it and I did? And for a long time, I was resentful of my family, and I'll admit that. I thought, well, hang on a minute, I'm poor because they were poor. Because we all tried to latch our hook on something. Don't we? This is the reason I'm not XYZ because of that. So I looked at my family. Bingo. This is the cards I was dealt with. How can I be anything more? Look at my parents, pair of bricklayers. That's all I'm going to be. I ended up working on the door of a nightclub. And funny enough, my pursuit to try and become rich, and again, I'm still using that word and I'll change it in a second, actually got me applying for a job in Hong Kong as a trainee stockbroker. Now, a friend of mine I knew from school worked in the bank and shuffled my stuff through, and I actually got taken on. So they flew me to Hong Kong. I landed on the Saturday, got drunk with them Saturday night. I'm qualified to do that. Yes. Got drunk with them again on the Sunday.
By the way, you have to do that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been hired on the...
exactly.
You had to go drinking.
So I got drunk on the Saturday night, drunk on the Sunday night, went to orientation on the Monday, and I was fired on the Tuesday. Oh. They realized that I had and of course, I've never, ever revealed my friend's name because he's still in the banking world. But without him shuffling papers, I'd have never made it to Hong Kong. So now I'm out on my ass. I ended up getting a job, which I thought was the worst point of existence, as a doorman. Now, I had gone from being a bricklayer, a masonry profession, a skilled profession.
Yeah.
So basically a job description of, well, go and punch that guy.
That doorman, not like I opened the door at a hotel, like security.
Oh, bouncer. Yeah, I was the bouncer of a shitty night. It wasn't even a high-end nightclub. Right. It was just like a middle of the road, pretty grungy Hong Kong nightclub, and I'm on the door. as the big scary fella. Now, here's the thing. As entrepreneurs, things are either done to us or for us. And standing on that nightclub door, I looked around at my other boys who basically would avoid any fight just to get paid and go home, get drunk, come back the following day.
Right.
With me, I started using it as a pedestal to look at human psychology, interaction, how the guys were treating other guys, how the girls were treating other girls. You could spot the guys who wanted to fight as they were walking up the door.
Right.
And I learned really on, and this is a nugget that I'm praying everyone will write down. I learned very early on that if I protected my front door, if I protected who walked through the front door behind me, I removed 99% of my problems once they were inside. As a business owner today, do you protect your door like you are a bouncer? You should. Wow. So that was the first thing that I started doing. And then quite simply, and this is, I'm going to go back to the rich bit. I was because I was a doorman, I knew where all the nightclubs were. I knew where all the movie premieres were. I knew where all the private parties were. So I started socializing with some of the more affluent clientele, and there weren't a lot in this club, and saying, hey, you going to Susie's party? Oh, no, I don't know how to. Let me see if I can pull a few strings for you. And I would then go, hey, I pulled a few strings. It's going to cost you $500 each, but hey, I've got you in a Susie's private party. And they were like, oh, great.
Right.
And this is where it started.
Wow.
The following day, once I'd got you into Susie's party, I had your intention. So I could say to you, oh, you know, Greg, I know you liked the party last night. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you, how come you're rich and I'm not? And let's be blunt, that's a horrible question.
Horrible question.
And
what kind of answers were you getting for that?
What do you think? I was getting the kind of, I was getting that.
Right. No one actually said, oh, here's the playbook. That's what you
No, I was getting friction, resentment, repelling. I was getting it. And I realized if you don't like the answer, it's because you're probably asking the wrong question.
Right.
So I switched it. And I said to people, hey, how come you're wealthy and I'm not? Now, that's a better question. But then I got things like, well, I met my wife and I found my church and, you know, my family. And I thought, I'm not marrying your wife or going to your church. So how does that help me?
Right. Give me that.
So then so I changed it to the third and finale question. How are you successful? And I'm not. Now, that was the question I used to ask. And then I went from that question to how are you successful? And so many other people aren't, because I would action all the answers. Now, I was getting the answers of how they saw investment, how they saw opportunity, how they handled relationships, how they retained on culture, how they looked at life, time, money, impact. And I'm getting all this. Now, if I've got to get you a piano lesson with Elton John, or I've got to get you down to the Titanic, or I've got to get you, I don't know, singing with Andrea Bocelli at the feet of Michelangelo's David in Florence, I'll do that. And those are all things I've done. But I never did it for that. I did it for the conversation I was going to end up having with you 2 or 3 days later. And that's when I was going to start picking your brain on how you handle and see things.
Wow. So you hustled your way into great thought leadership early days.
Yeah.
I mean, today it's we've got so much access to it.
Yeah.
YouTube, you know, how do you become the greatest of all time? What's your playbook? What's your secret sauce? And you hear a lot of the same kind of stuff, and the stuff that is tried and true, by the way. And I was just doing another podcast earlier, and this theme came up as well, which is, you know, hard work will beat out talent every single day.
Every time.
And you know, having a plan and having the sort of the guts and the gun-ho-ness and the intensity. I love your intensity. I grew up with this. You know, I've in a lot of cases worked a lot in my life to turn the fire off because it hasn't been received well. Right? It's you're too abrasive, you're too aggressive, you're too critical, you're too loud. I grew up in South Africa. Right? We had a little bit of a different way of living. Right. And, you know, my family's British. So you come, and then I go to Canada, and Canada is very nice, polite. Right. And
they're always sorry.
And always sorry. But you know what I would love what you were saying is that you leaned into that. You're like, no, fuck this, man. I am this ball of intensity and being abrasive and fighting and stuff. And would you say that's been part of your playbook that's allowed you to grit through and push through all of this?
I don't want to give you I'll make this answer really short, but I had a party at my house probably about 10 years ago when I was living in Hollywood, and we had some friends of mine over, and there was a couple of the actors from one of the Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. And it was quite a cool dinner party that I was having, and it was at my house. So I was kind of like feeling a little bit chuffed with myself that I had come from bricklayer to this. And one of the Marvel people turned around, they said, "Hey, let's play a game. Your superpower. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?" And it was a dinner time game. And they went, "Oh, we'll start with," and then luckily they started at the opposite end of the table. So I had another 6 people before it got to me. And I'm sitting there going, right, okay, I've got all of these people with me. I've got actors, and I've got, thought leaders, and I've got major influencers and some very wealthy clients at this table. I've got to think of something smart. When, let's be honest, as a bloke, most people just want the superpower, especially as a young lad, to be able to see through ladies' clothing. But of course, you can't say that, because it doesn't sound cool.
But no.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I want to be able to kind of dispense with poverty with the wave of my little finger, or make everyone's IQ jump by 30 points by a clap, something like that. I want to cure stupidity. I was trying to think of something that made me sound good, and it got to me. And I kind of went, "Oh, well, it's funny." And I pretended to think about it. And I can't remember what I was going to do. But my wife suddenly jumped in. She went, "Hang on, I'll help you out with this one, Steve." Now, there's nothing better than someone else saying good things about you. Right. So I went, "Go ahead, Claire." So she turned around and she went, "I'll tell you what Steve's superpower is." And he actually has this superpower. So I'm thinking, "Oh, great. That's a compliment. This is good." She went, "It's the superpower of ignorance." And the whole table went quiet. And I just looked over and I thought,
that's awkward.
This is the end of my relationship. What the? And she went, no, hang on. You don't understand. Has he ever done anything? And you've literally sat there and gone, how the hell did he do that? Mm-hmm. And she said, the reason he did it was because he was ignorant of any other outcome. He didn't possibly conceive it would happen any other way than the way he envisioned it. And he walked in with that bowling passion to go, "Hey, this is what should happen. What do we need to do to make it happen? How do we take this to real?" And she said, basically, I had that ignorance to failure. And I remember you saying about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs is another word for entrepreneurs, and that's failures. Mm. We are constant, consistent, thriving failures, but we allow those failures to refine us, not define us.
I love
that. That was it.
I'm just going to repeat that. So as entrepreneurs, we are failures, and the failure is here to refine us, right? Not define us.
Yep.
That's brilliant, bro. That is unbelievable. You're giving me hope, because I'm at a stage right now in my business where I'm frustrated, right? Because it's been super successful, major challenge, super successful, major challenge, super successful. And I was literally thinking this last week, am I on the right track? And the answer is I have no fucking clue. But I do know myself well enough that the answer is to keep pushing, just to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And hopefully the answer will reveal itself. And I'm listening to you now, and it's like listening to my own story in some regards, right? Which is, yeah, this is part of it. This is part of the fight. This is what we get up to do. This is why we do what we do, right?
Do you know how I know for a fact, and I'll lay down money on this, that you're going to make a very successful trajectory soon? Shall I tell you how I know that?
Yes, I'd love it.
Because you're aggravated.
Yes.
Aggravated oysters make pearls. If you had said in that statement, and you started with it, and anyone listening to this, back up, the first thing he said was, "I'm aggravated." Mm-hmm. Now, had he said, "I'm concerned," that's a worry, that's a negative. It bothers me that I'm not there. I'm troubled. Those are all emotions, but aggravation is something you do. When you're aggravated, you're in pain, and people move with pain. They don't move towards, profit. If something's going wrong, then that aggravation is what propels you to do something about it. The simple fact that you said that there was aggravation means that you're sitting there going, not, "Oh, woe is me." Mm-hmm. How does this go from here to here?
Correct.
And you've already said it 3 times. You've had success and it's gone down.
Right. Not that it's gone down, but there's been obviously challenges along the way, which make you question, right? Is this the right track? And to your point, I'm an aggressive personality. So when I face stress, I get angry, right? I want to kill it. I want to fight it. I want to attack it. I want to smash it. And, I've had to learn how to manage this in other areas of my life, with my wife, with my children, because it could be quite sort of destructive in those areas. But in business, I describe it like fire, and it's the fire that keeps things burning and keeps people's food cooked and, provides warmth and light and heat and security and all that good stuff.
But those challenges that came at you, those were the education. You see, you didn't get smarter from being in a successful business. You got smarter when it wasn't, when certain challenges came across. And those challenges may have been nothing to do with you. They may have been COVID. They may have been inflation. And they may have been depression. They may have been people stealing your business, stealing your ideas, stealing your IP. All of those different things, they come along to challenge us. But once we're challenged, we very rarely trip on the same curb. So when they came along, we go, hang on a minute, someone's trying to do this. I got this. Right. I know how to do this because this happened to me before. So you very rarely get the same challenges that bother you the same way they did before, because you're now from a point of education.
Right. That becomes a little bit of a barometer to me, which is, am I dealing with different problems? If I'm dealing with different problems, it means we're progressing forward. If it's the same problem over and over and over again, that's like Albert Einstein. The definition of insanity is doing the same.
That's systems.
No, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So at that point, you got to shift, or something has to shift, right?
Yep.
Let me ask you. So you were a bricklayer. You didn't go to school.
I left school at the age of 15, and I can't say that I learned much while I was there.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I dropped out of high school. I was 18 when I dropped out, and I would say my education came from my early days of travel, and then, early days of entrepreneurship, being thrust into it.
Oh, yeah.
Go figure it out. That's how I started selling at the business, which was, saw these sales guys doing their sales, and I was like, I want to get in sales. And they're like, no way, it's not happening with you, right? Anyway, one day someone walked in. I was like, I saw my moment. I was like, I'm going to take this. Walked in, sat down, did the interview that you did, walked out with the sale. And they're like, great, next day you're in sales, put on a shirt and a tie, which was a whole nother ball of challenges to get a shirt and a tie on, right? So tell me a little bit about sort of your focus today. So, with your business and what you're trying to achieve, where are you putting your energy? What are you focusing on lately?
So the weird thing is, and again, it goes back to the fact that my business was a Trojan horse. I never cared about working for the Oscars or the Grammys or the New York Fashion Week. Now, that sounds very disrespectful, but I cared what I could learn and grow from it. Mm-hmm. So I spent 25 years incredibly curious and moving around these worlds, literally all over the planet. And then 5 years ago, I got asked to write a book. And I actually wrote this book, Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. And I wrote it through Simon & Schuster. They paid me very well. And the reason I point that out, not because I'm boasting, but because I didn't have to worry about book sales. I'd already got front loaded. If it dived, if it did well, oh, great. But I'd already been paid. When you remove yourself of that worry about whether or not the book has to sell, you can write the book you want to write. You can actually talk about what you learned from these relationships, from these interactions, from communication. So the book came out 5 years ago. It did a little bit better than well. It got translated into 9 other languages. It became bestseller all over the planet. It got released in Russia 2 years ago, and it did really well there, Poland, all over the place. So it's really done well, and it's taken me on a different course. So now, for the last 5 years, I teach, I coach, I launched Sims Media on how to do branding and marketing. The whole world's gone from, okay, what did I learn for those 25 years? And what can I help you with now and help you shortcut some of the pain that you will inevitably go through to get to the same goal? Mm-hmm. That's my focus on now. And my big excitement factor is that this year, in October, I release my next book, Go for Stupid, The Art of Setting Ridiculous Goals and Then Achieving Them. So I'm releasing my second book this October. I never thought I'd release one, let alone 2. So I'm very, very excited in the world of Steve D. Sims at the moment. It's just, I can't believe it.
So can you give us some of the preview for your upcoming book? What are some of the lessons that?
It walks on that ignorance, and it also works on the fear that we have today of what other people think. We're basically focused on how people laugh at us. You see, we're not frightened of trying something new and failing. We're terrified of someone seeing us fail.
1,000%.
And we're in a world now where we don't want to be judged, clocked, or videoed by tripping up, because the humility of that we can't handle. Now, we're in a gotcha society. So if we can look at all of the great people that actually don't give a shit. And here's a prime example. Do you remember when Elon Musk did the Cybertruck? Do you remember when that came out?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing the unveiling of that truck?
It was a complete disaster. The window broke, everything, right?
You've just answered it. There was nothing on that truck outside of the wheels and the tires that was similar to anything that had ever been done before in the planet. Mm-hmm. Nothing. It was a completely different composite power structure. It was electric. It was angulated. Everything about it was different. But instead of that being what we rejoiced, someone seeing something dramatically different, we talk about the window.
Right.
And we talk about the rock going through a bulletproof window. Now, let's be serious. If you need a car with bulletproof glass, you should focus on where you're living, not so much on the car.
Correct.
So in which case, this bulletproof glass didn't work. Now, did you see the video that came out a few days later where they actually lined up different door panels with this glass and they threw bullets at it, they threw rocks at it, golf balls, and there was about 20 different things, and it was just a ricochet of them throw. Did you see that video?
I did.
But how many people talk about that?
None, because people love the train wreck and they love to
bingo
misery, right? And
we're only happy when things go wrong. He showed us something that had never been done before, and the whole conversation was that. So my point is, look at the way you move if you didn't have to worry about people staring at you. And then we also run through, and it's hysterical. And in the research, that's part of the fun of writing a book. I went through classic, stupid inventions that people scoffed at. And do you know, people used to scoff at things like light bulbs and coffee. Mm-hmm. Scoffed it. You can't wake up in the morning now without coffee basically being the smell of every morning all over the planet, but it was scoffed at as a ridiculous idea of grinding up a bean and adding hot water. That was a stupid idea that we now live with.
Right. Isn't that like true for the majority of stuff? Is like, I think the Post-it note started like that as well, right?
It's the whole thing. I remember, and I'm going to name drop, I remember doing an event with Elon Musk, and we were walking through SpaceX, and I had a guy next to me, and I was between him and Elon. He was trying to engage Elon Musk into a conversation, and Elon's not really a chatty kind of guy, you know? And so the guy was really trying to spark him up into a conversation. And it was at the time before NASA became his partner, which, let's be serious, is a joke. You know, NASA is a decal on Elon's rocket, you know, and they call that a partnership. But before that, sponsorship. But before that, they used to publicly ridicule everything Elon did. You know, they actually had a team based on Twitter that would basically discard everything he said and ridicule it. And my client turned around and said, "Oh, how do you feel that NASA actually have a team there to disparage anything you say about space travel?" And Elon turned around, not even glancing his way, but just kind of like a slight misstep. And he turned around and he said, "They'll always laugh at you just before they applaud."
Of course they do.
And then he carried on walking. And that's the point. Just imagine what you could achieve today if you didn't care if people were laughing at you.
Do you think that it's gotten worse as we've progressed over the last 20 years? In other words, it's worse today that people have such a fear of rejection and failure in front of others. There's such a need. I mean, we might acknowledge that part of our primal need is to be accepted in the community, right? At a very unconscious, sort of primitive level. But I mean, and maybe similar to you, I grew up with, you fall down, you get back up. Someone that makes fun of you, you either punch them in the face or you ignore them. Like it was this kind of lessening. There was no, oh, you should listen to other people's sort of, positions. So the question bluntly is, as we've progressed over the technology in the last 20 years, have we become softer? Have people become more prone to being all upset and sensitive as per people's feelings and perceptions of them?
We care about too many people we shouldn't. Now, today, you turned around and you said, and I remember this, growing up in East London, if I said something to the wrong person, I knew I had said something wrong because I was flat on my back with a split lip. Okay. Right. But then the following night, when you saw him in the bar, he was buying you a beer.
Correct.
Nowadays, we jump on Twitter or Instagram, we make a comment on someone's shoes that devastates the person that posts it while we're off walking the dog and no longer caring about them. Mm-hmm. And we're in a society where and this is the biggest bullshit on the planet, where we're now woke to people's concerns and feelings. Right. So much so that we're actually scared shitless to say anything.
Right.
Communication has got so bad today. People need to be communicating more. But what are we doing because of this gotcha society? We're actually scared of saying anything in case a sound bite is taken and then lives with us for the next 25 years.
Correct. I said this, I was talking, or I've been saying this lately. I think what scares me in today's time is the art of dialogue, debate, and argument is gone. Right? Yeah. Because gone is, as you said, we get in a fight, punch you in the face, you punch me in the face. The next day we have a beer together because the fight was settled. That was now resolved, right? Or we fought again. And if not, you moved on. And in today's woke culture, I think, the scariest thing about that is, the essence of being aware is one thing. The removal of debate and opinion is something completely different, right?
We have no conclusion. You see, the bottom line of it is, if you do something, there's a reaction to an action, okay? But now we're going, oh, no, you can't do it. Oh, no, that can't happen. So we're not concluding anything. So there's a lot of kind of stories that haven't been finished. If I've got a problem with you, let's settle it. Let's argue, throw things at each other, and then let's get on. Mm-hmm. But we're not concluding that. And now today we got people going, oh, use your words, but don't use them aggressively. Oh, and you can't say these words. Oh, and don't make eye contact because you're intimidating someone with your visuals. What the fuck's going on? Right. We need to be able to converse with each other. At the end of the day, we're two human beings getting into a scrap, getting into an argument, pushing, shoving, pointing, pulling hair. It's what human beings do.
Right.
And until we change that, I think a lot of the woke culture, I think, is a pile of horse shit. Someone was, I was watching someone the other day, and they were going on about any program 5 years ago couldn't be produced today. And they were showing excerpts of the biggest sitcom in the planet, Friends. Mm-hmm. And they were going through the episodes, that Joey with the man bag, and all these different things, and the lesbian innuendos. Oh, you couldn't say any of that anymore.
Right.
Why not? Who is it insulting?
Welcome to the Better Human Podcast. My name is Greg Witz, and each week we're going to be bringing you some incredible and inspiring guests and topics that are going to take your life to the next level. Thanks for spending time with us. Sit back and enjoy the show. I think about, as you were talking about, do you remember the Eddie Murphy stand-up, what was it, Delirious and Raw, back in the 80s?
I remember that name, but I don't remember the stand-up.
Right, Eddie Murphy. I'll send it to you afterwards. Incredible, but so inappropriate. Or like a Richard Pryor, or a Gene Wilder, or any of those comedians. I mean, even if you think about what's his name today, Gervais. Yes, he's
on there.
He's on there, right? But you gotta wonder. So where do you think this is all going? Let me ask you a bit bluntly, in your opinion. Is it going to get worse, or do you think the majority of us are going to get back to a little bit of this stage now, which is, okay, maybe we've swung a little too to the sensitive side?
Well, and here's the thing, and I said, who's it offending? I want to ask, there's a lot of people saying you can't say that. Now, I run a coaching program, and I have a wide variety of people in this group, and I've said to them before, when this is said, tell me, does this offend you? And quite often it's not what's said. It's maybe like a hidden meaning or an innuendo or the tonality of it. But it's those people in the middle that are ready to march on any kind of cause that you see, especially here in Hollywood, that are on a march every Saturday afternoon, but they have no fucking idea what they're marching for. Right. It's those people that are the problems. Those people that want to stand up and go, no, we're better than this. We can't be doing this. And it's the woke community which are actually causing a big problem. I think we have a massive issue. And until we confront that issue and go, hang on a minute, if I'm offending you, let's not avoid having the conversation. Let's have the conversation and educate me where I'm going wrong. A stupid person can only come smarter once you've helped them, once you've educated them. Hey, what you just said bothers me. Sit your ass down, pour the beer. I'm going to explain why it bothers me.
Right.
And then you go through it. I think we need to face the conversations that everyone is today avoiding.
Right. And, you know, it's interesting because in corporate world, there's now training for fierce conversations, difficult conversations. And, you know, I do a lot of training and someone will say, yeah, you know, so I did this course on having a difficult conversation. I'm like, so how did it go? Right. And I then asked them the question, I was like, what makes the conversation difficult? And it stumps everyone because no one really answers why it's difficult. It's a feeling, it's a fear, it's a perception. It's the fact that I'm worried about how someone's going to feel, react, or respond to it. So I agree with you. We need to bring the dialogue back. But I want to come back to what you were talking about earlier. You said early days, you were driven to be rich. When was the moment? And you said you were going to redefine that. You're going to change that a little later.
Yep.
But when did that change for you, or how did it change for you?
So very early on in what was my concierge industry, which I don't actually do now, very early on in that, I was making money. And here's the scary thing. We focus on money. I want to make money. How much is in my bank account? When I hit $1 million, then I'm rich.
Yeah.
And you hit $1 million and you go, shit, I've still got to put the bins out, you know, and my dog's still pissing on my shoes. And life doesn't, funnily enough, miraculously change. And depending on where you are, $1 million, if you're in Manhattan, I'm in Los Angeles, you can't get anything, you know, for that. So you suddenly realize, oh, crap. I had my barometer set at the wrong place. My goalposts were wrong. And then you suddenly start looking, okay, what was I going for? And a lot of people go for rich. They go for money. Right. Money is the byproduct of you actioning something over here. And then how you treat that action and the success of that action dictates what happens over here. No one gets slimmer by buying a diet book. They get slimmer by action in the diet book. And so when you start focusing on a wealthier, more impactful, more successful, fulfilled life, the money looks after itself because that's a reaction to your action. And I started noticing in the early stages, I was very early on, so much focusing on the money, I didn't focus on me. So I was still the fat bloke in a black t-shirt and on a motorbike, was still rolling around. And then one day, and it's in the book Blue Fishing, I got that doubting syndrome, you know, that imposter syndrome we get. Right. And I took all my earrings out. I covered my tattoos. I started wearing suits. And I suddenly realized I was very heavy in this shield. You know, I was trying to, you know, project something which all of a sudden made a disconnect. And I realized that this wasn't me. A successful life is one that you feel comfortable on. Now, we run a branding agency now. And believe me, it takes zero effort to be you.
Right.
And that's what I focused on. And I focused, if I took no effort on me, but all effort on my life, my lifestyle went up, which meant that my wealth went up, my perspective went up, my education went up, the people I surrounded myself went up, and the money just responded to this balloon.
And now you still get to wear your black t-shirts and have your tattoos out.
I went back to that. I worked for Ferrari in 1997, and that was one summer. I'm 55 years old now. In one summer, I wore suits and I bought a Ferrari. And I realized I was trying to deal with the wrong kind of people, and I was trying to attract the people that I couldn't relate to. And I went back to motorcycles. And as of this day today, I have no car. I still have my suits that I pop on every now and then when I'm going out with the wife, but I'm a black t-shirt boy all the time.
Yeah. Well, you and I have the same uniform, and similar. I was forced to wear suits. I did a lot of work in Washington with several agencies, including the White House, for years around leadership development and executive coaching. And if you know anything about Washington, you wear a suit.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it was one thing, but then I found myself to also being like, well, if we wear a suit to this corporate client, they'll respond to us better because we'll look more consultants, we'll look more professional and stuff.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Right. And then one day a client said to me, look, you're a cool guy, right? The black t-shirt, the tattoo, it all works for you. It's your authentic self. Try live that a little bit. Go with it. See what works. And that's sort of where it began several years ago. And to you, as your point, I'll put in a suit every once in a while, right? Even if we're needed to, depending on the environment. But, being authentic to who you are is so important. And a little bit about what we were talking about today, I think in the world that we live, it's if we're not careful, it's hard. It's very hard to be in your authentic self because there's so much imagery or perception or projection that I'm trying to live up to, right?
There's too many people trying to be. I remember someone said that you should never go somewhere and try and be something to someone that they want to see you be.
Correct.
And they were like, how confusing is that? You see, the good thing about me, and let's point it out to people, there were people on this podcast that already love me. Sounds arrogant, but they just love the style, the tone. Well, they love it. Great, brilliant. I'm relating. I'm talking to you. Brilliant. There are people that have turned off this podcast. They just hate me. They're like, oh my God, I can't stand that guy. Don't know what he looks like. Don't like what he sounds like. I just want nothing to do with him. But there is nobody on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with today. You spend so much time trying to be someone that you're not, that you still will get people that hate you. You will still get people that love you. But you've now given birth to a third group of people, and that's the fence sitters. That's the people that are going, Greg, I don't know what he's trying to say. I'm unsure if I like it. And you put them there.
Right.
And when you come out of your shell and you just go, hey, here I am. I do coaching, I do speaking, I do leadership training. I do all of these kind of things. If it works for you, know where to find me. If it doesn't, move on and grab a coffee. You'll be fine.
Right.
When you do that, you clean up that middle row. And those middle row are only there because you put them there.
Right. I'm gonna coin that the group that you need to tell to bugger off. Right. Which is right. If you haven't decided yes or no, just bugger off. Right.
Yep.
So let me ask you this question. We live in a world right now where people are stressed. We've come out of some difficult times. You get craziness on media now talking about sort of, future difficult times. What could people do or practice? That's a good word. What could be some things people practice to remain authentic, to remain driven, to keep their fire burning?
Well, let's redefine the early part of that question for a start. You said that we've come out of something. Are you aware that more millionaires were registered in the 2 years of COVID than at any other point of time?
No, I did not know that.
There were more millionaires registered by the IRS in the 2 years than the .com, the housing bubble, any of those stock markets, NASDAQ, any other time in our life. In those 2 years of the worst medical worry and issue in the planet.
Right.
That says something about people that grab opportunity. Now, are we going into a recession? Are we going into a depression? Who knows? But you can control your mindset. And the one thing you need to be focusing on today, the one thing is your people skills. Anything else you can download an app for. You could probably download an app to build a bridge or open heart surgery. But people skills, that's what got hurt during COVID. Now, I remember when COVID started, Friday night, I pour an old fashioned, I sit in the garden, and I literally ask myself, this is one of my routines. Did I earn this old fashioned? Did this week, what I did this week, did I earn it, or did I float, What kind of bit me in the ass? What did I learn from it? Where was my education? What were my challenges? And even when shit's coming at you, did I earn it? Oh, hell yeah. I shouldn't have done that. And I learned all of these things that I'm really not very good at doing, So you earned it. what I did in COVID was I actually went out there and I said, look, a lot of people love to get together with people at the end of a weekend. Or the end of a week, I always have a drink on a Friday night and ask myself, did I earn this old fashioned? Who wants to join me on Zoom? And we did these 200 people Zooms for like about, God, I think it went on for like about 7 months. It actually became quite a drain, you know, but every Friday night, 5 o'clock, hey, did you earn it? What did you have happen to you today? And even though we were in COVID, we were talking about, you know, I realized my equipment's not good enough for my Zoom calls. Oh, I've been having chats with my neighbor over the balcony. You know, I've actually got to meet my neighbors on all three sides of my house, they were saying, because I'm now having conversations. You know, we're putting deck chairs at the front of the house and talking across the road and having road parties, you know? So there was all these kind of things. So the bottom line of it is today, your bank account is your contact list, your data. And that data is only built by your ability to interact with another human being. That's what you've got to be focusing on today. Once you've got that, then you can actually survive absolutely anything.
Interpersonal skills.
100%.
My father said this to me. He said, Greg, you know, the business that, this was before he passed in 2011, but he would say the greatest thing about this business, the greatest thing about sort of doing the training and the coaching and speaking is all you need is your mouth. It's all you need. You could go anywhere in the world, and the only thing, and what does your mouth need to do? It needs to be able to connect with people, talk to people, communicate with people, interact with people, build relationships with people. And I've been saying this for a while, which is, I think, over the last couple of years, one of our greatest responsibilities as entrepreneurs, as individuals, as neighbors, is to help people re-socialize, reconnect, re-get together with people, because in some places it's still very fractured, depending on which state you're in. The US, Canada is very still fractured. And we ran in Canada our first live session 2 weeks ago. And the client called me up afterwards. He says, I got to tell you, Greg, it was amazing coming up, because what it's done for me is it's reminded me of the importance of being together in a room with people. And this doesn't mean we have to come in the office 9 to 5, but I'm calling my team and I'm getting them all in, and we're going to do some socials, and we're going to have some drinks, and big promoter of that, right? Get together, have a drink, right? What did you do today? Oh, yeah. Because this is what it's about. It's those people skills. And if we're not careful, people are going to lose their ability to connect. And it's one of our most primitive things that we need is connection, intimacy, social relationships, sharing. So awesome. Love that you said that, people skills. You might have already answered this, which is at the end of the show, we come up with the question of, you know, what do we need to do to be better humans moving forward tomorrow? I think everything that you've said so far is absolutely true. And I'm really beelining on the people skills and the interpersonal skills. What would you add to that?
I wouldn't add to it. I'd action it. And that's the downside with any kind of podcast. We've already stated that when we grew up, we never had these kind of things. You know, your podcast is given the chance for other people out there to hear a different way of life, a different idea, a different perspective. But if you do nothing with it, it's like use toilet paper. You've got to basically go, okay, what am I going to do today? And this is what I'm going to urge you to do. Make 10 phone calls with people that you're kind of friends with. Now, that's a strange request. We always phone up our buddies. We're always texting our mates. But contact 10 people that you're kind of friends with, that you met a while ago, that you saw last week, you bumped into at the coffee shop this morning. Get 10 kind of friends to find out if some of those kind of friends can become real friends. Put yourself out and reach out to 10 kind of friends.
That's amazing. You know, what you've just also acknowledged is the ripple effect. Sometimes in your effort of reaching out, as you said, impacts another person, which allows them to reach out. You know, it's like I said, hey, if I walk and I see someone and I could smile at them, and just by smiling at them, it's going to help improve their day, shift their direction. Took no energy and effort, just took a little bit of awareness and a little bit of consciousness to do so. It's the same with what you're talking about here. Steve, I could listen to you for hours. In fact, I've resisted jumping and talking because I've learned to listen to you. And you know, I love your energy. I love your position on things. And I think more people in this world need to take a page out of your book and say,
appreciate it. Thanks, man.
This is a little bit of the way we should incorporate some of these sort of perspectives or attitudes into our life, right?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you're also built as we say, like a brick shit house, and we're a bricklayer. So if we weren't going to say something nice to you, we wouldn't want you being offended and upset, right? No, but all jokes aside, Steve, I mean, you're refreshing to talk to, because sometimes we don't get to have these conversations in what we discuss, the woke culture. If people wanted to learn more about you, if they wanted to get in touch with you, if they want to get come learn about your branding business and coaching opportunities, how do they find you?
Well, I have a free Facebook group called An Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims, but you can visit stevedsims.com, and there's D for dashing in the middle of there, and there's only one Sims. So stevedsims.com, or Steve D Sims anywhere you consume your media, whether it be Instagram, Twitter. I'm everywhere under the exact same handle, Steve D Sims. And the media company is sims.media or simsmedia.com. And then you can find out what I'm up to help you with your branding and marketing.
Amazing. And I'm connected with you on social, and following you, and your page is fantastic. I'm going to come check out this Facebook group as well. And if you like today's episode, don't forget to like it, share it, subscribe to it. Go out and have a conversation with someone beyond your neighbor. Call that friend, as Steve just said, 10 people that you've touched. And maybe the message in reaching out is, hi, thinking about you, just wanted to say hello and have a great day. And if we could do more of these things, we just might have, way better humans in this world. Stephen, Thank you very much for being here.
All the best. Bye.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Don't forget to share the episode. Hey, thanks for listening today. And if you enjoyed today's episode, you're going to love the next one.